executive mansion. Trump has also reportedly told people working on the ballroom that they do not need to follow permitting, zoning, or code requirements because the structure is on White House grounds. Rob Artier, NBC News Radio.
NBC News on KCAA Loma Linda, sponsored by Teamsters Local 1932, protecting the future of working families. Teamsters1932.org.
All right, good evening. Welcome to the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCAA Radio.com website and MBRradio.us. We got to bless the show before we get started. Let's go. When I was in my mother's womb, I had a calling on my life to do something in the glory of God and marry it like a wife. Commit myself to his word and never be led astray. And when it's all over, when he comes, I'll be glad to see that day in the morning time. One of the things about my life when she says creating the relatedness for one another. That's me. Welcome to the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Again, streaming from the KCAA Radio.com website. The station leaves no listener behind. Thank you for listening tonight. We are live in the studio. If you are driving in your car and you got to get out your vehicle, grab your device, type in kcaradio.com, click listen live or watch live because we're in the studio in San Bernardino. I'm not by myself today. I got a guest here. We're going to have some good conversations tonight. Also, if you want to download the app, yes, KCA Radio has an app, so you can go and download the app, and then you can listen to all of the podcasts, talk shows on our network at any given time, right? Archives, all things like that. So I appreciate you for listening in. Tonight, we're going to have a conversation just about, some life stuff. There's so much going on in the world tonight, and I believe that just creating the space of the relatedness, that's really why I do my shows, are to create I don't understand Farron, right? So if I don't understand Farron, how could I put pressure on you to understand me? So if we can create the relatedness conversations, then there's more space for us to talk about different topics in life, connect to one another, use your imagination. You do it anyway. You go to Not Scary Farm and you still scared of these ghosts and goblins that ain't real, but your imagination allows you to go there. So imagine we could take that same imagination and apply it to the lives of other people. And yeah, maybe you can't walk in my shoes, but possibly you could relate to me. And what would you do in this conversation? What would you do in this situation? Right? So this is what we're going to be talking about tonight. You can catch me Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific time on the Military Broadcast Radio Network. That's right, MBR. Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Just another version of the Farron Dozier Show, more of a military format as well. But we do talk about all topics there. The Farron Dozier Show is a variety show. All right, so let's touch on some ABA basketball. Again, I'm one of the co-owners of the Indian Power Hounds. We are 2-1 this season starting off. We actually have 2 away games this weekend. We're going to San Diego. The San Diego Mob. Right now they won again. I think they're like 7 or 8-0 right now. The San Diego Suns used to be the Chula Vista Suns. We beat them 4 times last year, and so they are out. They're gunning for us this year. We already lost to them in the jump off of the second game in October. That was our first loss to the Suns, and we've been studying, and we know that they're coming for us. So we're going to be down there in San Diego on December 6th against the Mob, and then the Suns on Sunday. If you would like to find out more about the team and the platform and the conversations that we're having, iahounds.com. It's owned by eqathletics.com out of Redlands. That's the company that we have, teaching leadership, emotional intelligence, and sports conditioning. So if you would like to brand with us, we're looking for partners to support us in a lot of these home games, a lot of our away games. We have like 12 players, I believe, right now. So if you have a business, we can partner with you. We can get these guys in your business. You can have a commercial here on the network. We got website presence, all that stuff that you would see when you go to a Laker game or a Dodger game. All those business banners that you see around the stadium, we are creating that for our organization to support us and to support these players. One of the most beautiful things that I could share with you, as I was sharing with my guests tonight, is the opportunity to go into the school district and actually do a career day. And what I walked away that day was like the heart of our children. You know, as parents, I'm a parent. I got 3 daughters. I got 3 grandchildren and another one on the way. It wasn't until I started my own healing journey at 40 years old that I realized that even as parents, sometimes we don't really listen to our children, right? And a lot of us grew up in these environments where I'm the parent, you're the child, and you don't get no say-so, you don't get no response. You do what I say, and that's it. I can tell you today that doesn't work. It didn't work then. We may have turned out all right, but if we tell the truth on how we grew up in our environment, were you heard as a child? Probably not. Probably there was things that you needed to hear or to say or express yourself, and you wasn't able to. And then you pretend, and then we become a different person to avoid that pain. But it fractures our sense of belonging. It fractures our integrity. It fractures our heart, your perception patterns and your memory patterns and your action patterns. And then you forget as an adult, and then you wonder why we act the way we act. And then we pass that conversation to our child because this is what I was taught. And it's not good or bad, right or wrong, but it's fracturing our ability to communicate. We say that we're listeners. We say that we can communicate well, but do we communicate effectively when communication is harmonious? Or do you react? I'm not perfect. I'm still working through it, but I've improved, right? I've improved myself. So I'm not the same guy at 40. I'm not the same guy at 55. You know, I've grown, and we can create the space for that. So we're going to touch on a little bit of that tonight, but I want to play first our public service announcement. This is brought to you by WDC on SCT.org. Sickle cell trait is very important. It is another part of my experience, pretty much what set me on this whole conversation, because I collapsed in the military from what they call ECAS, but it's sickle cell trait exertion with rhabdomyolysis. So anybody can experience rhabdo. It's just one part of that conversation, but for sickle cell trait, it is inherited. It's not just a black gene. Like, I can give you a list of things that we could alter in the conversations about that. But our Latin community is number 2, but you can be Caucasian, Mediterranean, Asian descent. It's not a skin color, it's a bloodline. So we have to know what our bloodlines are so we can figure out if you have this gene by being tested, the hemoglobin electrophoresis. And with the rhabdo, anybody can experience rhabdo, right? Because of the overexertion, the exercise, the medications like cholesterol medication. There are other muscular disorder genes that can happen. There's so much that can happen with sickle cell trait and with rhabdo by itself. So this is a PSA that I've created, one of my first original ones. I was young, still in the military. I was trying to sort things out, but check this out. This is the Farron Dozier Show on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Again, WDCONSCT.org. Shout us out, Worcester County. Hey, I'm Sergeant First Class Farron Dozier. I'm here at the military base, and I have the sickle cell trait. Now, why I got involved is I experienced what they call sickle cell trait exertion. And I was doing the Army physical fitness test, the 2-mile run. When I got done, I collapsed. A lot of soldiers and athletes have been dying at football fields and running track, and the family members have no idea that they have the sickle cell trait gene or that it's a trigger. So my purpose is to mobilize the community so we can find out what's in your genes. How will life be if we could prevent another child from being born with sickle cell trait or disease? And if a child was born with the trait or disease, that the family members would have the education, awareness, and resources in every city that they lived in. So tune into our webinar series and find out what's the count. What's the count? What's the count? What's the count?
You can sign up as a volunteer, or you can support our organization by donating directly on our website. And all proceeds.
That's coming from somewhere. I'm trying to play some music, y'all. Forgive me for that. This is the Farron Dozier Show on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Again, streaming from the KCARadio.com website. The station leaves no listener behind. I was trying to play a song for you, but we'll just come back to that. My guest tonight is not a stranger. Louis Reyna is here, my Army veteran buddy. How you doing, man?
Doing good.
Don't be shy.
Good.
Just come
Hi,
up to the
hi.
mic. Don't be shy. Come up to the mic. Man, thanks for hanging out tonight. I really appreciate you, for coming in. We, like I said, we're not strangers, but tonight I just wanted to have you come and just share like some of the things that you're up to, and maybe some of the hot topics that you want the community to know about, and maybe how we can put our arms around that and embrace that with you.
For sure. First off, thank you again for the invitation, for having me here. Since the last time, a lot has happened. It's been a while. We had our LULAC National Convention in Long Beach earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
We had amazing guests. We had one of our guest speakers, Dolores Huerta, as you know, is the founder of the United Farm Workers Union.
Okay.
And so she came out, she spoke to us. It was really good. Our council had been working on a resolution that we had submitted to the body of LULAC at this convention, asking for LULAC to get behind Senator Padilla and his motion, his proposition for the pathway to citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, immigration has been a very, very big issue recently.
Yes.
And everything that's been going on with the ICE raids and the demonstrations and, the National Guard being deployed.
Yes.
Which we'll talk on that in a little bit, because that was our unit here, the 185, was part of that deployment.
Was the 185
Mm-hmm.
was? Oh my goodness.
And so, so we got that resolution passed. LULAC is standing behind Senator Padilla, trying to get this measure to pass. Alongside that, recently the administration, there was an order, presidential order that came out that he wanted to not count votes, mail-in ballots that would come in after the election, even if they were postmarked. And the number one community affected by that are veterans that are overseas,
Right.
that still participate in our democracy,
Right.
And cast their votes. And for one reason or another, their ballots come in late. Primarily those are going to be the affected individuals. And so LULAC, was quick to come together and do a call to action. And so I am one of the plaintiffs on that lawsuit.
The plaintiffs. Dun, dun.
And so on that lawsuit, against the current administration for that. And so there's been some of the things that I've been working on. Finally got my company up and running, Legacy Veterans, where we're helping veterans navigate their services, their benefits,
Mm-hmm.
how to go from, 10% to 100% or whatever percent they're at to 100%.
Right.
And how to get, the benefits that they deserve. And so we help them navigate that. We have a partnership with a doctor that works with the VA that helps deep dive their cases and see what we can do to help them.
Wow, that's beautiful. Let's touch on the ICE conversation, right? Because we know that the social media and the media, they do what they do with that conversation. It's designed. I told some friends today that when I took TV broadcasting and radio academy school, right, and we were trained to write the news a particular way, right? And I disagreed with that even in school. I'm like, I am not going to be that kind of journalist or broadcaster that I'm going to write the news that leaves it open-ended for people to create their opinion about, like, right?
Right.
So based off of what you do at LULAC and the conversations you hear in the community, plus we see on TV, how is that for you? What does that look like for you, really?
Well, I'm in a unique position because I'm still in the military. I'm still with the National Guard, and I also belong to these civil rights organizations. And a lot of times, they're at odds. They're at odds with each other. And so that was a big part with this recent deployment with the National Guard is because the majority of the enlisted are Hispanics. We have a lot of immigrants in our military. As we saw, a veteran, what was it, Purple Heart recipient, was just deported. So there's no protection for anybody.
Yeah.
Whether you work for the government, whether you serve in the military, there is no protection. And so the misconception about the deployment with the National Guard is that the National Guard went out to be a part of that enforcement with these federal agencies.
Right.
And that's simply not the case.
Right.
A lot of people right now are talking about following or not following unlawful orders.
Exactly. Yep. I had that conversation.
And even though when you first enlist in the military and part of the, 100 briefs that they're giving you in 24 hours
Right.
when you go to your training station, that is part of the conversation.
Yes.
We go over the Geneva Convention, we go over rules of engagement, and we go over following what the difference between a lawful and an unlawful order.
Right.
Now, with this deployment, it is a bit of a gray zone because the president does have the power to federalize the National Guard anywhere, at any time, for any reason. And a lot of people feel like that might be too much power, but at the same time, I mean, it's a system of checks and balances. But
yes, exactly.
But with
that's the part that gets left out of the conversation.
Exactly. And so these National Guardsmen, they went out. The mission was to protect these federal buildings, to protect federal agents, and ultimately to keep the peace, to maintain the peace.
Yes.
Allow demonstrators to do what they've got to do, and allow the federal agents to do what they have to do. Not to go out and arrest, not to go out and detain anybody. That was not the job of the National Guard.
Right.
But where people don't seem to differentiate is because you have law enforcement out there in military style uniforms. And so a lot of people get confused, and the images that they see, on the news and on social media, they just see
camouflage.
Yeah. So they just think soldier. That's a soldier.
Yeah, it's
camouflage. And so they don't know how to tell the difference. And so a lot of people are pinning it on the National Guard. Well, they went out and arrested somebody, or they went out and detained someone. And it's like, no, you do get those individuals.
Yes.
Because these are federal agencies at the end of the day. These federal agencies, these are opportunities for them to recruit.
Yes.
And then so you do get those individuals that are excited to take advantage of those opportunities, whether it's for career advancement, whether it's because they agree with the politics of what's going on, or the additional money, because that's another part that people don't talk about. The National Guard, you're a part-time soldier.
Part-time.
You get paid as a part-time soldier, which is not a lot.
I did it for my first 4 years.
And so these little deployments, these little, calls to action, it's more money for a soldier, a soldier who may be struggling, a soldier who's got a couple of jobs to sustain, if they have kids, or if they have a home, or if they have cars, and whatever the case is.
College, whatever they're trying to.
Yeah, going to school, and it not being enough, again, because the benefits that the National Guard get are different than active duty.
Right.
So these are opportunities for soldiers to make more money, and a lot of people jump on it.
Yeah.
So it's not even about what's really going on. It's just, for them, it's an opportunity for overtime. And so I want to throw that out there so that people don't have just this one narrow view of what's going on, because that's what the mainstream media keeps putting out.
It will paint that picture, and then again, for me, it's I call it, if I language what I see in society today at the spiral that we're in, it's a psychological warfare. A lot of times, you get a 60-second clip, and you make your opinion off, and if you pay attention to those clips, ladies and gentlemen, that conversation is usually not in one breath. It's cut into different pieces of what that person said to paint the narrative of a subject.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you just can't go. You gotta really watch what's happening. And you're watching these videos, these 60-second, 3-minute clips, because a lot of times it's not something that's said all at once. It's cut up into pieces. And that's, again, as a broadcaster, I went to school. Like, you don't do that.
Right.
You don't see that on the news. You don't see that. You might see it on social media, but you don't really see that in real life news, because even on my show, I don't edit clips out to make it say something that I wanted to say because I want you to watch my clip. No, my stuff is one breath. If I don't say it in one breath, then I'm not saying it.
Right.
And so for us, in the psychological warfare that I see, it's really what I teach is how do I give it my opinion? Because my opinion could be so right to me, but it may not be right in the conversation, right? And then we battle with each other based off of the opinion of what we watched, and then now we don't like each other.
Right.
And to me, that's the driving force of the driving wedge amongst us as people first, right? There was another topic that you brought up that you wanted to be a hot topic tonight. Do you remember what are the main things you wanted to address? You said it in the beginning. I didn't catch it, but we can guide the conversation. As far as LULAC, right? So it's the League of United Latin American Citizens. Can you let people know what that is in case they're not familiar with LULAC?
So LULAC is a civil rights organization. It's one of the oldest Hispanic civil rights organizations in the U.S. It started with the desegregation of schools in Texas. That was the very first issue, the very first spark that initiated this, LULAC was that. And so, from that point on, it's been about, fighting for the equality in education, and career advancement and economics, and in pursuing that American dream, and making sure that, everyone has equal access to it.
Your involvement is at what level of this?
I am president of the California California Council, which is the Veterans of Southern California Council. I've been the president now for the last 2 years with the council, and so our council is very unique in the sense that we're the only veterans council in Southern California. We work with veterans from all over, not just in Southern California, Northern California, and even down in Tijuana with some of our deported veterans. And so we have a lot of different projects that affect the veteran community, the military community, like our Deported Veterans Initiative. We've been working with other agencies like Black Deported Veterans of America, Repatriate Our Patriots, Military Families Speak Out, Veterans for Peace, a lot of these different organizations. And so, we try to provide as much aid as we can to these veterans that have been deported, try to provide them with resources, with job assistance, whatever they need. We try to facilitate that to them, as well as the advocacy with trying to get them repatriated back to the country where they belong. Along with that, we have our Operation Daybreak, which we touched a little bit earlier. It's our specialized recruiting for young adults, high school aged students that want to pursue a career in the military, that want to pursue going to these military academies. And so we have a partnership that started here in this school district here in the city of San Bernardino, where we provide that as a career option to the students here in the district, and then looking to expand outward to other districts as we move along. Aside from that, we have just a lot of different projects from that lawsuit that I talked about earlier. And so
let's touch on the children, because that, again, for me, that's part of what has become most important, right? We say the children are our future, and it is not a cliche. Like I said, for those adults who are listening to this show, I ask you to relate, to look back when you was in elementary school, when you were in middle school and in high school, and the challenges that you went through, not just the activity challenges, but the emotional challenges, right? And when you brought up that conversation about your program, it makes me think back about what happens to a child who wants to come to your program, but then his environment doesn't pull for that because you can't do that, or his Latin community, Hispanics, you can't do that. You got to go get this job at McDonald's because we got to pay these bills. Like, you ain't got time for that. Like, and we don't create the space for that child to say, you know what, mom and dad, I do want to attempt this. I do want to see if I qualify for this job, or can I go to this school. For you, how do you see that as a space, as a way? Because a lot of times, our own environment is the dream killer.
Yes, it is. I myself was victim to that. I could have taken a number of different career paths in my day had it not been for, the emotional toll that it takes on the rest of the family.
Right.
And being in the military, it's a huge commitment. It's not just a commitment from the individual; it's a family commitment.
Yeah.
The individual is not the only one that enlists; it's the entire family. And sometimes that's the conversation that's needed. I feel like a lot of parents just don't understand what it really means to join the military. They just think you're going to put on a uniform, you're going to be a soldier, and you're going to go fight, in a war. And that to them is being in the military.
Yeah.
But, for a lot of people, the survival is the biggest deterrent.
Yes.
And the cool thing about the military is it's a job. From the moment you sign on the dotted line, you've been hired and you're going to go do the job, and you're going to get paid every step of the way.
Right.
So for a lot of you who are listening and are interested in enlisting, or have somebody that's interested in enlisting, if that is the fear of what's going to happen with the economics of the home,
right,
the paycheck's still going to come in.
Yeah.
And because while you're in training, all of your needs are going to be met. That paycheck that you're getting every month, you really don't need it. So either you're saving it or you're sending it back home to help contribute.
Right, you're not physically there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So so that fear should not even exist, anymore, because you're going to get paid. Everything else gets taken care of. You have your medical, you have your clothing, you have your food, you have your roof over your head, you have the skills that you're going to learn, that you're going to become proficient in, that are going to help you not just in your military career, but when you retire, when you get out of the military. Life still goes on, and now you have a skill set, a discipline, a routine, that you didn't have before.
Yeah. And then it's cool how you language that. Even just this holiday, my sister and my niece are in town, and my niece heard me talk about the military, and she was like, I was thinking about joining the Air Force. And I was like, go do it. And I'm like, you need to start exercising so you can be prepared, for the physical part. And then, it's like a light bulb. Like, she was really like looking at basic training videos. It's like, the interest. And I recommend it because at the end of the day, it is a huge stepping stone. For me, it was a job. I didn't join the military for God and country. I joined it, and it was a job, and I enjoyed it. And again, for families who, if your environment doesn't pull for that because of the survival state of mind, these are the conversations that we can have to maybe soften the heart of the family members to see, oh yeah, you know what, that could be good, not just for us, but for you, because it's at some point that child is going to be the next one to take on the family, and you just, it's I don't want to say disheartening, but at the same time, you already have enough pressures from society and the world on what you want to do and what you want to become. But the emotional part of those conversations, I believe that if we had that with the families, with the even the person that wants to join the service.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to have a real talk with somebody who's in the military. Maybe not just one, but maybe like 5 or 10 different perspectives.
Yeah.
Of the branch that you want to join, and talk to those retired guys, those reservists, and see how they went about their career. And now you get a chance to take that information and be like, you know what? I talked to all those 10 soldiers or those 10 Marines, and guess what? I think I can handle everything that they went through. Mm-hmm. Now that's a free choice.
Yeah.
You've got some insights, but were you ever taught about unforeseen consequences?
No.
I didn't get that until in my 40s.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? What's the unforeseen consequence? Yeah, well, you can actually, because we do a lot of things because of a reason why. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times we make decisions off those reasons, and then the reason doesn't turn out how we expect it to turn out. Then we're stuck.
Yeah.
But we think it's the decision. It wasn't the decision. It was the reason why.
Yeah.
And then we defend that reason until death. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we never make a new decision because of the embarrassment that came from that.
Yeah.
Or the disappointment that came from that, or the shame that came from that. But if you have conversations where we're open to listen and to share with one another, you could actually hear subjects and be like, you know what? I think I can handle that. Mm-hmm. And now you can make that choice a free choice.
Yeah. True.
It's a missing piece in our communication skills, I believe.
It is.
And anything about that?
Yeah, with interpersonal communication. I mean, I know it's a skill that has been getting away from everybody.
Yeah.
Especially now with people being glued to their cell phones.
Yeah.
You go to these places and people are looking down. In public, everybody's looking down. Everybody's looking at their phone, and instead of enjoying everybody that's around you, instead of having those conversations, it's real disheartening.
Real time. So we're at a restaurant, taking my aunt, my sister and my niece around, and my daughter and my grandson, and we're all there at the restaurant, and we switched from one cellular company. I'm not going to give y'all no name because y'all ain't pay for that. But we switched from one cellular company to another one, right? Mm-hmm. And so the other one has not been giving us good signal,
Oh, no.
even in the house, even in the 1 gigabyte Wi-Fi that they provided that would be awesome for us to have. So my daughter's like, you got a signal? I'm like, no. She's like, well, I guess that allows us to have a conversation now, huh? Because we can't even get on the internet on our phone to search. Just like, so I guess we just start talking like, okay, so then what's happening? So it's like,
gotta have those in-person conversations,
right?
now,
And so it wasn't a bad thing. It was a little frustrating, but my daughter recognized it, and she was like, you know what? Well, I guess we just get to talk today, huh? Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, yeah, cool. So we talked about whatever was going on, but I appreciate you saying that, the intrapersonal relationship, and that's something that at 40 I had to figure out, and that caused me to challenge the first 40 years of my life, all the way back down to decisions I discovered as a 2-year-old. Mm-hmm. How does a 2-year-old feel or to know that they're disconnected from their mom at 2 with barely any language?
Yeah.
But the brain is already developing, surviving, giving meaning to life before we had language. So the instincts of survival takes place.
True.
And then as a parent, you have to end up battling that in the child's mind, and you wonder why the child's disconnected from you and all that, because that didn't just start as a teenager.
No.
That stuff's been going on, for a while. And so, those are the kind of conversations that we believe that if we deal, I don't want to say deal with, but if we take care of that part of society, even as adults, because a lot of us are still dealing with those conversations, right? Still stuck in some type of experience. I just believe it's a missing conversation.
It is, and better time management. A lot of people have found it easy to give the kid the phone, give the kid the tablet, say, here, go, let that entertain you for a while I take care of something else, or while I do something else. And, and then we wonder why, we're all so disconnected. And it's like, well, your electrical device raised your kid, that's what'd you expect?
I'm looking at the site, and I looked at their programs, and you have a 50 plus tab. I'm 55. No, people don't believe me. I'm 55. What does the LULAC do for us
For seniors?
in our 50s? Because I know you're not that yet. You're
No,
not, yeah.
no.
So what are you doing for us in our 50s?
A lot of information.
Okay.
When COVID was the big issue.
Yeah.
It was a lot of getting together. What are we going to do to provide supplies for the seniors, provide information for them, what to do, what they can't do, what to watch out for. So awareness is our biggest thing with seniors.
Okay.
Things that are going to affect them moving forward, whether it's Social Security, how to navigate, Medicare, how to navigate, all these different diseases and medications that are coming out. And so there's a lot of advocacy for seniors.
And I appreciate you, again, for saying that, because I look at myself even at 55, right, and me taking the J&J vaccine and having a reaction to it, and having to impact my health, right, and even dealing with that today still. Even with the children, they talk about COVID did something extra to the family. I find myself like choosing my battles on where I want to go. Like too many people, like, nah, I'm good. And I've missed out on some community events, the Arrowhead Veterans Chambers. I didn't go to that ribbon ceremony cutting because I saw the email and I was like, nah, like I don't want to be like too many people.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that even in the people you share with, or just in your own conversation of?
Oh yeah. Yeah. People are more skeptical now of going out and socializing because they don't want to get sick. Yeah. They don't, they just don't want the headache of dealing with people who are sick in public. And so, yeah, no, I get it. I myself, I don't hold back. I go out.
Really?
Yeah.
And so I after I recognized it and I saw it and I saw the impact of it, because they was like, I'm like, I want to do something with y'all. And then it was like, well, we sent you the email with the, how come we were expecting you to be there? And I was like, oh, like there's nothing I could say except when I looked in the mirror, I was like, oh yeah, because I'm picking my battles of, do I want to risk going to this event and possibly getting sick?
But if you remember, it was the same even before COVID.
Yeah, it was.
There was flu season.
I know.
It's like, okay, do I go in November? Do I not go out in November?
Yeah, but like I said, that whatever that again, psychological piece of that of COVID, I believe.
Oh yeah,
really
they made it. They really blew it up. It was going to be something that was going to wipe out, half of, all living life.
Yeah.
It was such a big thing, and thankfully, it wasn't as severe. Even though, yes, we did have some deaths. Yes, we did have some tragedy, and my condolences to all the families out there. I'm not downplaying that part, but I am saying that for what they said it was going to be, it wasn't, and I'm thankful for that.
Yeah. With LULAC, me being an African American, could I be a part of LULAC in our conversations? So I talk about that part of the United Front.
So
not just the label of the title of the organization, right? Because some people feel like, oh, well, that's LULAC. I don't fit over there.
Yeah. Even though no organization is perfect, and there are differences amongst everyone, and even though the organization is a Hispanic civil rights organization, we have a wide demographic of people that make up LULAC, and at all stages, whether they're involved with the organization on education, on health, on military, on seniors, with the youth, with the young adults, in all aspects.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we're also partnered with different agencies, different civil rights organizations like the NAACP, Black Deported Veterans of America.
Yeah, exactly.
We work with a lot of different demographics, a lot of different groups. And so the fight no longer is, well, this is a brown issue, or this is a black issue, or this is an Asian issue, or this is a white issue. This is an everybody issue, and we all need to come together because we're all being attacked.
Yes.
Especially with DEI going away.
Oh my goodness.
Well,
do you even touch on that at all?
We do.
Yeah.
And that's actually one of the big projects moving forward is we're putting together an interagency coalition with not just the Hispanic immigration groups, but Asian, Black, you name it. And so it's going to be big. It's going to be a huge thing because, it's essentially DEI fighting back.
So here's where I'm at with DEI. And again, because of the interpersonal relationship that we talk from, the foundation skills, I'm an emotional intelligence. Like, that's how I stayed alive. In my depression and anxiety and suicide ideation, I had to go within myself to heal my subconscious mind, to restore my mind, to give my spirit, put my spirit back in line to lead my life, right? So I live now that I let my spirit lead my life. So I feed my spirit with biblical principles, but I also feed my mind with cognitive behavior, the educations that we take, the ones that we teach, right? So when I look at DEI, it's, yes, there's a part of it that's the activity of life, right? And there's also the side of the experience of DEI, right? And so you can open up any door for me and say, Farron, you can come through this door because you're Black and you can do this and you can be this. But if my interpersonal relationship with myself is fractured, my integrity of myself, I'm not good enough, I'm not worth it, I'm not smart enough, I'm not whatever, I'm not going to walk through that door. So there's another side of the DEI conversation that I don't see it being discussed, is the experience of that. I know guys that were, talked about affirmative action, and they're like, yeah, well, you got that job because you Black. But some of the Blacks that got those jobs, like, I wasn't even comfortable with it. Like, it's not like something that they're proud of, because they knew that I got that gig because of this program. So even some people who were open to be a part of the DEI conversations as it relates to them specifically still didn't have the confidence to step into that, right? So when we look at so I live my life, the experience of life and the activity of life. And for me, my experience of life is just as important as my activity. So when you look at the DEI from where you're having your discussion point from it, what does that look like?
Well, for me personally, it's the opportunity should be given to everybody, right? And it should be up to everybody's group, your community, my community, in whatever demographic that's made up of. You should be encouraged by your community to not feel like these opportunities are above you, or you were only given the opportunities to you because of your ethnicity or the color of your skin. I feel like a lot of people, the misconception is the opportunity versus it just being given to you because of it, because of that difference. If you're qualified to do the job, you're qualified to do the job. Even if you personally don't feel like you're qualified to do the job, that should be a part of that. That should be a part of the pre-screening of anybody going into those positions. Should there be more representation from our communities? Of course. But that should have happened a long time ago. It should have happened, in the 80s and the 90s when
60s and 70s.
Yeah, exactly. So this isn't anything new. It's just labeled differently.
See, I don't really deal with a lot of politics or civil rights. My grandparents were from two different spectrums of the conversation. One was, you're gonna be independent from white people, so you don't have to depend on white people. And then my other grandfather was like, we're gonna use the word of God to create our own way. So I got both. Like I could go either direction, right? And I just believe that the whole civil rights movement that was directed to the black community, it did open up the door for a lot of other cultures to be included in that, right? And so I can get why the target of the current administration is that, because it did, those jobs that they're taking away are the jobs that we settled in when we felt like we didn't fit in the other jobs that were more for the white community. Right. So it feels like the attack is on that black and brown and LGBT and all that, because those are the jobs that we're doing, and now you want to take those away?
Right.
And to me, that's also an emotional part of the conversation, not just the activity of it.
Yeah, and you know, they're taking these jobs away, but then they're not doing them. Much like the immigrants that are working in the fields.
You're gonna make me say something that I haven't said on my show yet.
You know, I had the privilege, and I call it a privilege because I chose to do this. And so I was in between jobs one summer. And mind you, I already, years after I had gone to college, I was in between jobs, and my neighbor, they're immigrants and at the time, and they would work the fields. They would go pick grapefruit and oranges out in the Hemet, San Jacinto area.
Yeah.
And just on a whim, they're like, hey, why don't you come with us? And so I was like, you know, why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
I have, it's something that I haven't done. You know, I think, and I was like, I think I can do this.
Yeah.
You know, I think I could figure it out. And let me tell you, it is the hardest job I've ever had. The worst paid job I've ever had.
Yeah.
My hat's off to these people, because you have, you know, these adults, 40s, 50s, sometimes even into their 60s, that are out there at the crack of dawn, you know, working these fields. And, you know, I don't see anyone else out there, you know. So for those people to get picked up, for those people, well, you know, I wonder who's going to do that job, because it's...
I'm trying to tell you. The views and the comments of the Farron Dozier show are the comments of Farron himself, not to KCA Radio or LULAC or anybody, right? But this whole DEI conversation, the way that the world is looking at right now, it's disheartening. Because I found my peace in this world, not just from a spiritual aspect of it, but in my heart. Like, I had to find peace, and it's easy to go back and point to slavery. It's easy to go back and point to a lot of things that we're dealing with, even since slavery was the Jim Crow era law, right? The sunset laws. Like, I put my mind in those conversations, like, what would it feel like to be working in a space like that, where I had to be out of town by, like, my day at work is upset. Like, I'm not having a good day at work,
Right.
knowing that I'm living to this future of uncertainty of trying to get out. Like, so I put myself in, and I'm like, man, that had to be a rough life.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And so, but when I look back at history, and you look back, and this is why I look at even at the presidency, you know, these guys are making decisions, or these decisions are lasting not just their political term, but 20, 30, 40, 50-year decisions that are impacting the future when they're long gone, and the next guy comes in and he wants to change it to this. And now, but we just dealing with.
Yeah.
So when I looked at that, and I looked at Ronald Reagan, and I'm like, you know what? I looked at the conversations that he had with society, with the South, and how the South was a blue state. And Reagan went to them and was like, hey, you know what? Why are you over there with the black guys, you know, community? You should be over here with me as Republican. We hang out with me. Look at the government. The government's a problem. I'm like, how can you say that the government's a problem when you're you're trying to be the president? Or like, so how do you say to me that the government's a problem and you're a part of the system? Yeah. Right? So I saw that part, and I was like, that's wild. But then, you know, what he did was,
and boy, did he make it worse.
He made it. Yeah. That's what so when he unhyphenated all the white skins right, that were second-class citizens, we tell the truth, that were hyphenated, Jewish Americans, Irish Americans, Polish Americans, they were all hyphenated like us, and they didn't get along with each other either. They all settled in their own ghettos, and they still didn't have like one another. There was some a couple groups that did it, but as soon as he did that and spoke to that fracture, they went from a blue state to a red state. But then when I looked at even more, it was like, but they never changed their hearts.
No.
So you change color, you change parties, but your mindset is still the old conversation that you've been engulfed in since the Civil War since you lost the Civil War.
Right.
And that gave me some peace to not be mad at white people. Right?
Right.
I don't have a problem with white people. It's the system that we point to that is at the behind the scenes of those conversations, because when I could see that, you know what, all they did was change parties, their hearts is still in that same mindset. Well, then no wonder when the current president came on the scene, he spoke to the same fracture.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make America great again. Well, for who?
Right.
Well, for the South, which is why they're unraveling all of these jobs that you point to about and I'm like, well, I'm not mad at him, but he's speaking to the system that's fractured.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't work. That doesn't work for me.
No.
No disclaimer, but before we get out of here, any that's just my rant, because I want people to self-examine themselves, that it's not against each other.
Right.
Ultimately, it's not against each other.
No.
We're all dealing with we all got the same worries, no matter what race. We got the same worries, the same concerns, the same circumstances, the same fears.
Yeah. Are our taxes going to go up? Is fuel going to stay the same? Is it going to go down? Is the economy going to tank? Yeah.
We're all
Are we going to be able to afford houses in the near future? I mean, there's so much that affects all of us, irregardless of where you come from. Yeah. And this administration has done absolutely the bare minimum for the bare minimum in this country.
Yeah.
And, the working class, we're in a lot of trouble. Yeah. We're in a lot of trouble.
I appreciate you for saying that. And lastly, before we go, the last piece of my sickle cell trait awareness. It is a very important conversation, even for our San Bernardino County, because we are mixed race relations. African Americans are number one, but the Latin community is number two. We talk about the athletes collapsing from heat stroke, and a lot of those heat strokes and rhabdos are connected to sickle cell trait or other red blood cell conditions. Anything about your health conversation that we could shine a little bit of light on as in a partnership or a conversation? You ain't got to commit to it right now, but it's something that health-wise, just awareness. The first bite of the apple for me is the awareness. Even for our ROTC programs and those that want to join the military, a lot of times, just the understanding what genes you carry before you even join the military.
Yeah. No, that is a huge part. There's a lot of underlying issues, a lot of even genetic traits. Yeah, that's that a lot of people.
So trait is just one.
Right.
I don't know why it's number one at the top of the list, but there are so many other types of inherited conditions. You could have a skeletal muscular disorder and not know. And be exercising, and then that be the trigger that could cause your whole health and wealth piece to.
And that does happen. That does happen to soldiers. They start basic training. They start training, and then all of a sudden, hey, your bones aren't as dense as we thought, and now we're looking at osteoporosis, and these are things that'll get you med boarded out.
And athletes playing sports, it's the same way. You got children putting their family on their back to get this scholarship to go to the pros to make it better for their families, but they could be putting their own health at risk.
Right.
And so that's just another piece that we want to have a conversation about with the community and just bring awareness to. We got a 60 seconds. Anything that you want to say? I appreciate you for hanging out, man.
No,
I know
thank
we
you.
Touched on a lot. You're welcome back anytime. So I'm going to keep inviting you back because I'm looking at the site, man. You got so much.
We have so much
to discuss.
So much. Anybody has any questions, they can reach out, lulacveterans@gmail.com.
Lulac Veterans.
For anything.
Yeah. You have a good time, man.
Thank you.
Thank you for hanging out with me. This is the Farron Dozier Show on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Again, at Farron Dozier on all platforms. If you want to be a guest, you want to hit me up, you got questions, you didn't like what I said. I care how I landed on you, but I stick behind what I say. I own what I say. So I appreciate you for tuning us in. Shout us out. What's the count?
Do you remember studying sickle cell in biology class? What's the Count on Sickle Cell Trait Prevention is here to bring you awareness, education, and prevention conversations around the risk factors of this inherited gene. Visit wdconsct.org.
CAA.
This segment brought to you by Marty's Carriage Barn Antiques at 31181 Outer Highway 10, just off Yucaipa Boulevard, near Yucaipa, where you can step into a treasure trove of history and charm in their charming antique store, where every corner brims with unique finds and timeless wonders. Picture yourself marveling at delicate porcelain teacups, discovering vintage clocks